Jonathan Lee Riches investigates Alec Murdaugh sent to McCormick Correctional Institution in South Carolina, where he is in isolation right now, protective custody. But he wants to go into general population. He no longer wants to be behind bars 24/7, locked in a cell alone with no one around him. Check it out.
Double axe murderer Alec Murdaugh would rather take his chances on the yard than rot away in a cell, despite receiving threats in prison, and is hopeful he'll get out one day. Alec Murdaugh wants to leave protective custody and move back into the general population of the prison where he is being held, according to his lawyer. Murdaugh, who is serving 2 life sentences at McCormick Correctional Institution in South Carolina after brutally killing his wife and son, reportedly would rather chance being harmed by other inmates than remain isolated. His lawyer, Jim Griffin, told News Nation he thinks he could be productive in general population. He would rather take his chances on the yard than rot away in a cell, to be honest with you. Murdaugh, convicted of murdering his wife Maggie and his son Paul from their home in June 2021. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences in March, following a 6-week blockbuster trial. But he hopes he'll get out one day. Yeah, right. So he wants to be out of isolation. He wants to get into general population, according to this article.
So he'd rather take his chances in the yard. McCormick is a maximum security prison, which is right by the Georgia border. Alec Murdaugh spending the rest of his life in prison. I can tell you firsthand about solitary confinement because I spent time in solitary confinement in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and it is the most horrifying experience that I've ever had in my entire life. It was a character builder, and I was there for administrative reasons, not because I wanted to be there. You have some options. Some people want to go into protective custody. Sometimes it's called administrative detention, which that's where I went into, and they hold you there. And you're there because they don't want you in the general population compound because you're a high-profile person. Or for me, I was a grievance writer, lawsuit writer, and the prison administration didn't want that. But being in solitary confinement, the cell is cold, lack of sunlight, you get fed through the door slots like a dog, like an animal, 3 times a day. You only can have a limited amount of clothing, and it's an exchange for an exchange. So if you have one pair of socks for socks, 3 days a week, you might get out of your jail cell 5 out of 7 days a week, and you go into another, just a small cage. Where I went, you couldn't even see the trees or anything like that. It was just surrounded by concrete, and you look up into the sky. People are constantly yelling all 24 hours a day throughout the solitary jail block, because you're on a unit with other people in the solitary cells around you. You can hear them through the vent. They pump out cold air. Showers are lukewarm at the most. So yeah, the conditions in general population are bad, but they're much better in general population than they are in solitary confinement. And Alec is realizing that at this point. He's like, no way, I want to spend the rest of my life in just a 15 by 30 cell all alone. It's a horrible experience. Your mental capacity could deteriorate very, very quickly when you're in there long extended periods of time. Even the United States Supreme Court at one point, I believe, said that solitary confinement is a form, it's unconstitutional, but states still do it. Alec Murdaugh is in there under the guise of protective custody. He seems like he doesn't want to be there, but they're going to put him there. Now, will they let him out? Will they roll the dice? I don't know. I feel like it could be a liability issue. There's a warden and administration at these jails, and something happens to Alec Murdaugh if he goes onto the compound. I say compound, into general population. Then the jail could get sued, or the spotlight on the jail. The actual facility that Alec Murdaugh's at, if you Google around, there's been a lot of violent incidents at this jail, this prison, where Alec Murdaugh's spending the rest of his life. Google it. You'll see multiple amounts of deaths regarding inmate to inmate violence in that prison. So the prison he's at is very, very violent. Now, does Alec Murdaugh, will they transfer him down the line to more of a medium type security? Possibly. Good behavior. I don't know the policies and procedures with South Carolina Department of Corrections, but at one point you would think if he behaves for 5 or 10 years or, you know, an extended period of time, you might go down to a lower population, but just, or lower custody type of population, a medium security. But medium securities and minimum securities could be just as violent. In the borough of prisons, those low facilities, which are dormitories, opposed to maximum security prisons, the dormitories are wild. They're out there partying all night, inmates drinking hooch and you know, playing cards and music, and they think it's fun and games, and there's less you know, guards around, and all types of extortion and gambling, and predators are lurking around. Sometimes it's better to be locked in a cell. And maybe Alec Murdaugh would want to go to general population and then realize, whoa, this isn't for me, because inmates are pressing on me because he got a lot of money, trying to extort them, and then say, I want to go back into the PC. Put me in PC. It's called a check-in move. So he wants to check it. I know a little bit about the prison experience because I've been through there. That's probably one of the reasons why I cover true crime, and some people see that I do have insight of what's going on inside these prisons. I was never in a maximum security state prison, but federal prisons throughout the country at all levels I've been in. Penitentiaries, ADX Florence, Colorado, and even Lowe's and the medical centers, a bunch of different facilities. So I see firsthand what goes on, and I kind of understand what Alec Murdaugh is going through. Subscribe to my channel, like, hit the notification button. I am covering the Alec Murdaugh case. Check out my Alec Murdaugh tapes. We'll talk soon. Stay tuned.